Sapphire skies, soaring sparrows, nesting twigs, in beaks they harrow. Nature sings in symphony, close your eyes and listen in. Winds whisper in harmony, a tribute to life's sweet hymn. YangYang is an outrider of the Midnight Rangers. Once sheltered, now a fighter, she soars with the wind to protect others like a skylark in flight. The secret to excellence. In any social group, there are those who exude a convincing, reliable aura that convinces people they could achieve anything despite not having started or done it before. YangYang is one such person.
YangYang? It seems she can do everything so well.
People would always say so. This trust probably stems from their experiences with her. Since childhood, YangYang has excelled in her studies, including etiquette, music, literature, mathematics, and martial arts. She always ranked at the top in all subjects and exams every year. Even when encountering new knowledge or difficult problems, YangYang never showed frustration. Rather, she would actively try to solve any problem that came her way. YangYang was always chosen to give speeches at her school's annual ceremonies. But, like everyone else, she would take a deep breath before speaking, hiding her nerves. Despite having some talent for understanding complex concepts, she lacked true genius. And while others may see her as successful and confident, she struggles just as much with everyday problems. In her first swordsmanship lesson, she struggled to control her swings and execute proper techniques. Despite this setback, she resolved to work even harder. For the next 2 months, she practiced 100 times a day and sought guidance from experienced seniors, humbly acknowledging her weaknesses. She then continued to practice with a reflective mindset, improving upon the deficiencies pointed out by others. Eventually, her muscles adapted to the pain and she could withstand several strikes from an opponent. And in another 2 months, YangYang, once again, emerged as the top student in her swordsmanship class. Concerned individuals tried to console YangYang, reminding her that life is not perfect and that she should be content with the affirmation and praise she receives. But YangYang would kindly reject this advice, knowing that her drive came from within and not from seeking validation from others. Was she giving her all? Was everything done to the best of her ability? These were the questions that consumed her. With a smile and a gentle shake of her head, she would reject any advice to take it easy, determined to push herself to perfection with no room for regrets or shame. That's our YangYang, doing amazing as always. We knew you'd make it. That was when YangYang became an outrider and successfully helped resolve a regional Tacit Discord crisis. People praised her excellence as usual. Yes, I did it this time, but how about next time? There are still so many things I could have done better, so many things I don't know. Perhaps I should go seek advice from senior members of the Midnight Rangers. Being consistently reliable is daunting, yet crucial. It takes relentless effort and dedication. YangYang is determined to give her all to achieve this goal. She strives to be the one others can seek help from anytime, and won't stop until she succeeds. The secret to listening. Most people didn't know that YangYang had a perfect pitch. Perhaps it was because how she was always a passive presence, never singing in public or taking the spotlight. She preferred to stay in the background and listen. It seemed like she was born to be a listener. That's why Chixia was shocked at YangYang's ability to accurately hum a melody she had only heard. She couldn't help but exclaim, "How'd you memorize that so fast? And it sounded amazing! Good heavens!" Suddenly, everyone remembered YangYang's other identity, the second daughter of a family of musicians. It would be only unnatural if she didn't understand music theory or know how to sing. This revelation resolved some of the previous confusion. That perfect way of dealing with people, that etiquette which seemed faultless to even the most demanding people. Yes, of course, she had to come from such a well-educated family. However, it also begged another question. Why would the daughter of such a renowned family go to the border city alone, at the expense of her otherwise luxurious life and promising career? Was there an underlying reason that compelled her to leave? If there really was such a reason, YangYang never mentioned it to anyone. She never complained or avoided responsibilities, whether when she fulfilled her outrider responsibilities or when she spent time with friends. If one had to say, it was her outrider companions that bothered her more because she was always patiently lending an ear. Many sought solace in confiding to YangYang, not seeking solutions but simply venting their stress. She knew this well and remained neutral, empathizing with the narrator's feelings. She listened without interruption, offering guidance when needed before returning to a silent role. With her help, The tangled emotions were untangled, unnoticed. These cathartic sessions proved valuable. However, YangYang's support was not blind agreement. She offered advice prioritizing the speaker's desires. Soon enough, Chixia told everyone else about YangYang's amazing talent, sparking playful requests for a song. YangYang shyly waved off their requests, saying, "Maybe I'll sing it for everyone later, when I'm ready." YangYang looked sincere, so it seemed not just perfunctory or an excuse. It was truly what she thought from the bottom of her heart. But when would that be? Perhaps she wanted to wait until everyone else who wanted her to hear out their worries had finished talking. Understanding and critiquing performances requires a deep knowledge of music. However, being skilled in music does not necessitate taking the stage. So thought YangYang, as she again chose to step back, allowing others to shine. The secret to believing. To some extent, there isn't much difference between the 16-year-old YangYang and the 6-year-old YangYang. She still holds the same expectations for the world, believing in fairy tales as always, believing in the goodness between people, believing in miracles, believing that all things beautiful will eventually happen. Many would call this naive luck, the thoughts of a spoiled child who has never faced the harsh realities of life. Indeed, YangYang grew up in a privileged and nurturing home, shielded from suffering. Her life was perfect, until that fateful day. At age 11, her tranquil life was shattered by a ruthless attack from exiles while traveling with her family's caravan. The brutal reality of death and cruelty left her reeling as she fled and sought refuge among strangers in an unfamiliar settlement. These resilient people lived off the land, cautious yet resourceful. She was forced to fend for herself, adapting to this harsh new world at a young age. She couldn't tell if they were like the ruthless attackers or not. The constant alertness of these settlers made her question if it was safe to trust anyone. Dressed in fine clothes and alone, she stood out among them, and they too were suspicious of her. Could it be a trap? In the end, they passed food to her, and she took it, though she'd never seen anything like it. Kindness found its roots even in the most barren of lands. YangYang wanted to repay the trust they released before her, but her knowledge proved not helpful at all in the wild, and her sword skills proved too childish against real hostility. Everything seemed entirely unfamiliar to her, yet this was the harsh reality most people had to face. The reality felt so overwhelmingly agonizing. "Grandma, have you been living like this all the time?" As YangYang tried to help an old lady sort out the meager resources they had, she couldn't help but ask this abrupt question. "Yes, why?" "Silly girl, you shocked? Relax, everything will be fine." "But when? Will things really be fine one day?" "Of course. How will good things come true if you don't even believe them yourself? We were skeptical of you too, but we chose to believe. It's the same for you. Gotta have faith in something in life, even if you don't know how it'll turn out. That's what faith is all about." "When? Maybe when you grow up, little one." So yes, perhaps YangYang hasn't experienced enough hardship yet. Or maybe one's inclination to show kindness isn't based on past experiences, but inherent in their character. In the darkest of situations, some will show kindness simply because others choose to trust them, and this in turn will spark more acts of goodwill. Ever since, YangYang always spread kindness to strangers, sparked by that one encounter. Of course, her kindness is not without boundaries. Betrayal can turn her warm breeze into a harsh storm. But she holds on to hope, believing in the power of goodness. She chooses to trust and expects the best from others. This is her chosen way to make the world a better place. What wind taught her? YangYang had fallen into the winds 3 times. The first time was when she fell from her mother's arms. Shortly after YangYang's birth, she was already surrounded by love. Her mother playfully swung her in her arms, pretending she was flying and landing. But when the swing went a little too high, YangYang felt the whispers of wind and sensed an approaching storm, even before she could speak. As she landed, her babbling was mistaken for fear from the accident, but was actually a reaction to the oncoming tempest. The second time was when she passed out from sensory overload. As she grew up, YangYang's once vague sensing abilities strengthened, allowing her to feel intangible airstreams in her palms. She called them the streams, and they gave her insights into energy fluctuations, anomalies, and even the smallest physical details of a person. Trapped in a self-destructive cycle, YangYang yearned to explore her ability and gain more insight. But the more she tried to be thorough, the deeper she fell into a maze of details. What followed cannot be called a fall, for it was a descent through time, not space. The sensory overload lasted for months, between faintness and sobriety. YangYang felt as light as a feather caught in a raging storm, perpetually falling. I must focus on the key details within my reach, rather than trying to capture everything. Finally, YangYang pulled herself out of the never-ending freefall and safely landed. The third, but maybe not the last time, was when YangYang leaped up and threw herself into the winds. The continual sensory overload altered her hair and taught YangYang to tolerate the discomfort. Despite the stream's excessive information, the recipient could sift through and extract crucial details. Signs of a struggle at the disappearance site, unusual fluctuations outside the city, and a steady rise in energy reactions. YangYang had never used her ability in such a dire situation, but her determination to help overrode any hesitation. The stream surged, forming a distinct line that led to a missing child being chased by tacit discords and teetering on the edge of a cliff. Without hesitation, YangYang leaped towards the precarious figure, stretching out her hand to save the child. Feathers danced in the air, carrying YangYang and the child in a gentle yet powerful wind. The child looked around at the floating feathers and asked, "Are you the lark fairy that flies in the wind, miss?" Lost in memories, YangYang smiled. She thought of the times when she fell into the winds again and again. Perhaps she truly was one with the winds. Answer lies in the winds. On her journey away from home, YangYang met two kinds of people. The first kind always seemed in such haste, yet remained unsure where they were heading, and often ended up lost and returned in regret. The other kind always had a clear destination in mind. They always made it finally, despite arduous roads and occasional stumbles. YangYang held up her head and looked at Jinzhou City on the horizon, unsure if she could be considered one of the second kind of people. Once again, she thought of the term, one instrument for life. That is the most important principle in YangYang's family teachings. Originally, it meant that every family member could strive to excel in everything, but they must choose one musical instrument to specialize in and practice continuously throughout their life to become a master. As circumstances changed, the principle gradually evolved into dedicating one's entire life to one pursuit, striving for excellence to make this life worthwhile. Her mother's instrument was composing. YangYang had seen people dancing to her mother's songs. On the other hand, YangYang's sister was already a successful figure in the Chamber of Commerce. However, YangYang could not easily decide on her own instrument as they once did. What was the thing worthy of dedicating her life to? What person should she be? She turned to her mother for help. "Mother, do you want me to inherit the family business? Or what do you want me to do? I can try anything and I will strive for excellence. Although life is full of infinite possibilities, in the end, we can only choose one path, right?" Her mother looked at her with love and said, "My child, it is precisely because of this that you should not seek answers from me, but rather ask your own heart. This is a difficult question, but you need not rush an answer." And so, YangYang held on to her question, waiting patiently for an answer that seemed to elude her. She waited through her returning home from the desolate settlement, through the climbing out of an abyss, and through growing weary of her family's overprotectiveness. Her desire to join the world and experience its harshness grew stronger, no longer content with being a mere leaf drifting in the wind. She longed to bear the weight of reality instead of hiding away from it. That was when a sudden ambush in the wilderness resulted in heavy casualties from tacit discord attacks on the front line. News of this tragedy quickly spread through the city, igniting feelings of sorrow, anger, and despair among its inhabitants. Emotions boiled over, with people gathered around a bonfire. Tears flowed freely, hoarse cries echoed through the night. But by morning, grief became a luxury as life returned to normal. YangYang stood among them, tears streaming down her face. She hadn't experienced any personal loss, but witnessing their sorrow and the joy of the rescued children stirred something inside her. It was a transformative moment as she realized her true calling, to protect others just as she had been protected before. She wanted to shield them from misfortune and give them hope for a brighter future. As YangYang stood at the edge of Jinzhou on her enrollment night as an outrider, she gazed at the sky and the bustling residents below. Doubt crept in as she questioned her ability to protect these lively citizens, a responsibility she had always dreamed of fulfilling. The streams came from afar and gently held YangYang in their embrace, dispelling her last bits of doubt. They silently whispered, "Jinzhou is the place. It is the destination for YangYang, the wealthy daughter, and the beginning of her journey as YangYang, the outrider." Striped ribbon. YangYang's blue beret always has a delicate ribbon attached to its brim. It's her signature look and a precious gift from her mother before she embarked on her journey. To YangYang, it symbolizes her mother's blessing and marks the start of her own journey. She holds on to the resolution she made when putting on the ribbon, determined to see it through until the end. Sound recorder. As YangYang grew accustomed to the constant presence of streams, she began to contemplate capturing the fleeting sound of the wind. With the help of Baiji's modifications and innovative energy conversion technology, a device was created to store the streams as visual and tangible information. Whether it be the gentle sound of snow falling on a mountain, an untold story, or a poignant moment that brings tears to one's eyes, YangYang now had the ability to record these realities that her senses were attuned to. All in one. YangYang has been crafting wind chimes since she was a child, using polished jade crystals in the shape of birds as plectrums. Starting with just a few, she has now collected and gifted dozens of them to her loved ones. Each one is different, with intricate designs that evolve over time as YangYang adds new plectrums and adjusts their placement. She sees it as a never-ending journey, with endless possibilities for interpretation. Despite not knowing what kind of melody the wind chimes will eventually create, YangYang stays true to her original intention, a lifelong pursuit of perfecting her craft, just like her family's tradition of one instrument for life. Forte examination report. Resonance ability, breath of winds. Resonance evaluation report, evaluation basis, resonance assessment 1011-G. The exact time and cause of Resident YangYang's awakening remain unclear. Resident YangYang reports heightened sensitivity to her surroundings since her childhood. The tacit mark of Resident YangYang is located in the center of her forehead. Post-awakening observations found no notable physical change. As frequency fluctuations resurge, limited feather-like transformation have been observed on the ends of her hair. Resident YangYang synchronizes with the surrounding air by detecting information in air streams and creating an energy field using converging airflow. The resonance spectrum pattern of Resident YangYang displays over 20% resemblance to that of airflow and smaller bird species. While a strong scenting reaction is present, the pattern also shares over 5% similarity with multiple other existing samples, indicating potential multiple or contaminating causes of awakening. Analysis of test samples has revealed a non-convergent Arbelos curve with a stable rise. Occasional fluctuations within the normal range have been detected, therefore YangYang is identified as a natural resonator. Overclock diagnostic report. The waveform graph for Resident YangYang displays stable elliptical fluctuations in the time domain with no abnormal patterns. Upon examination, all results fall within normal parameters. In terms of resonant criticality, Resident YangYang ranks at a relatively low level with high stability. Examination results appear to fall within normal parameters with no risk of overclocking. Resident YangYang has a documented history of overclocking. Maximum recorded overclocking rating, negligible. During the event, Resident YangYang experienced emotional overflow and temporary loss of Forte control. Fortunately, there were no casualties or hazards reported, though she suffered several comatose episodes due to the overstimulation. Further examination revealed that YangYang's heightened perception was causing harm to her body through her Forte. The after effects have since stabilized, but the feather-like transformation on the ends of her hair remains irreversible. YangYang's sensory overload has been managed and her emotional state is stable with a positive prognosis. Routine examinations are recommended for monitoring purposes.